What's up, guys? This is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about creating an epic life on your terms. And today we're talking about introverted intuition and how to create a life story on your terms. Not only using introverted intuition, but actually also using extroverted sensing. Because how many of us have this great vision of what our life could look like, all those fantasies of all the people we would want in our life. But if you really look at the reality, it looks completely different. And then you see people who actually make it happen, who use their in order to create amazing things. And you ask yourself, what's the difference? Well, I'm going to tell you today because I have learned a lot of lessons in this department and you can apply them in your life starting today. Before we get started, if you're ready to take on the next step in creating your epic life and you want my help in it, then join the masterclass or work with me privately. All the information you find below. So first off, let's talk about introverted intuition in the way it will actually help you create a life on your terms. There are two aspects that have to be understood first and foremost. The first thing is to understand that we really have a very hard time distinguishing between what is really a reality for us and what is only a vision. And I know this firsthand, and I've talked to a lot of my clients about this. This is really something we have to learn. We have to nail this. We have to really step behind this thing that's keeping us from really accessing it. So how are you gonna know what is really a vision that is doable? What is a vision that will help you create a better life for yourself? And what is just an illusion, a fantasy that helps you to escape reality and which won't help you to improve your life in any kind of capacity? Well, you know it from the fact of how much you're using SE to make it happen. So every time you fantasize about somebody, you fantasize about a job, about anything that you're not actively doing anything to make it happen, it's an illusion. And you're very well aware of it if you think about it. So think of the last thing you really thought to yourself, this is so nice, this is so great, whatever it is, and then ask yourself, are you actively doing something to make that happen? So for example, you have a crush and that crush has been in your life for years maybe even, and nothing has happened and you're not doing anything to make it happen. Maybe from time to time you say, okay, I'm gonna see that person in a couple of months again and I'm gonna approach them again and then, something great will happen. Well, it hasn't happened so far. You have not made improvements so far. There's nothing really sustainable in it. The only reason why it works is because you get an endorphin rush every time you think about it. Because as I said, our mind, people who have a very strong intuition, have a very hard time distinguishing between what is only a vision and what is reality. This can be the best thing that ever happened to you and it can be the worst thing. And we have to understand what distinguishes those two so we can actually tap into the one that will make it a reality. And guess what? Because you have such a strong intuition, you are much more capable of making that happen. All we have to do is to just find those roadblocks and remove them. The second aspect when it comes to NE that is really important to understand is that we need new information over and over again in order to create a reality for us that is much more based on what's really going on than what has only been in our mind. So what I mean by this is, let's say you have this great vision of becoming an artist. So this is in the moment you have the first idea, only a thought. You have no idea what's really going on in reality, what's really going on in the art world, anything like this. So in order to actually make improvements on your vision and then therefore in reality, you have to not only make it a reality as much as you can in this moment, but you have to look at what's really going on, take the information in, and then create a new vision. So for example, you say, okay, I want to be an artist. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to join this convention. I'm going to start talking to other artists. I'm going to see what ways there are to actually live off my art. And then you see, okay, there are possibilities like I could do it through Etsy. There are possibilities where I can showcase my art through Instagram. The list goes on and on. So let's say you have 10 options that you found only because you applied your intuition and you really put it into reality. So that meant you went out, you went to the convention, you wrote down what are the 10 things that I could do. Then you tried out a couple of them and you figured out this is the one that actually works best for me right now. This is what I'd like to do most. This is really most in alignment with how I live my life. So what you do then is you get more into, let's say, the Instagram art world. You understand what you need to do, how it's already working, so you can then apply your intuition based on the new facts. See, our intuition always works on having information inputted into our system. That's why so many people get paranoid, or there happens this typical NITI loop where you just keep thinking about the same thing over and over again. You pretty much go mad and nothing happens. It happens because you're not putting new information into your mind, and your mind has no chance of actually taking in that new information and creating something new, creating the next step. Because once you're there, once you already created, let's say, an Instagram account, once you already started creating art twice, 3 times a month, you will see, oh, okay, this is how my environment reacts to that. So how can I, knowing that this is my current reality now, really have the next vision? So the list goes on and on like this. This is hugely important, and so many INFJs and people with strong intuitions completely underestimate it. So these are the 2 aspects. The first one being, you have to become crystal clear on what is just an illusion and what is something that you can actively create a reality from. And the second one is, once you know that this is a possibility of a new reality, that you not only take the action steps, but you're also willing to create a new vision through those informations. You cannot do one step and then say, okay, now it's done. Now I'm in this and it's just gonna happen. That's like me saying, okay, I'm just gonna do 2 videos each week and then I'm gonna blow up and my channel will be so successful. The way it happened was because every single time I was able to actually question what I was doing, to improve myself, to actually take on new steps on, to have a better vision, to just get clearer on what I want, how I'm going to show up in the world. And through that, I created not only a new vision, but then I put it into reality. And so before you know it, it's going to take a little while, but still, before you know it, you have created a reality that is so close to your first vision, you will be surprised and amazed. And then from that point on, you can then create the next vision and create more and more. So let's rewind for a second. Let's really go a little bit in depth on the first aspect. When it comes to this, you have to be really willing to let your ego go, because our ego doesn't want to admit to ourselves that this is not something that is possible, but it will help us so much if we're actually willing to look at it. So the things I've been doing in the past is, for example, to dream about some job that I wanted to have, for example, at McKinsey or something like this, when I had no idea what work really goes into it, what it really means to work for a big company like McKinsey, and I didn't know and I hadn't done anything which would qualify me to get a job there. So these are, for example, thoughts that I had when I was a college student, and I thought, okay, this is so cool because the only vision I had of corporate jobs were things that I seen in Suits, for example. Now that I've been in the corporate world, now that I've worked for big companies, it wasn't McKinsey, but it was a top tier consulting agency in banking, I know that the reality is completely different than what I thought it's going to be. And all the time I had the vision of, I want to have this. I wasn't doing anything to make it happen. Did I go and study and make those grades happen that were necessary? No. Did I go and do internships that would make that happen? No. So I understood after a while that this is not going to happen if I'm not actively doing something about it. So this might seem so obvious and everybody knows this. Oh, so it's not going to happen if you don't do anything about it. Yeah, but still it happened over and over again. And now I look back at it and say, well, okay, this is so obvious, probably because I didn't want to, or it's not really the thing that was meant for me. But the facts were, I wasn't doing anything to make that happen, and nothing was actually going in that direction, and I still didn't want to let go of this. When it comes to jobs, it was actually much easier to let go of that. Much more frequently, what I had done is to get obsessed over men when there was no chance this would happen, and actually I got obsessed because it wouldn't work out, because it was a perfect chance of me to actually fantasize about something, to obsess over something, because I knew this was never going to happen subconsciously. But if I really think about it, and I'm sure if you think about your situations, you will see it's the same thing. So has that person actively tried to be with you? As in, they're doing it right now, not like once a couple of years ago or a couple of months ago. Right now, are they actively showing interest? Is there anything happening that makes that relationship get closer? Is that person around you? I used to always have those crushes with people who didn't even live in my country, and there was no real future there, but for me, I just wanted an escape. How many of us actually want an escape? And we do everything in our power to find a new vision of how this new life could look like if I could just escape my life, because my life right now is nothing like I want it to be. So the easiest way is just to give all of that up, all my reality, and I just create a vision out of somebody else's reality, and I can just insert myself in that. Same thing is if you think, okay, I'm gonna go and work at that company and then I'm gonna be happy. Then I'm gonna have this great vision of my life and everything's going to be okay. But you still kind of get in situations like this where you're not actively doing anything to get there. And this is where SE really comes into play. So SE is something that a lot of people misunderstand when it comes to really actively using it to create a better life. Most people, if you ask them what is SE, as in extroverted sensing, they'll tell you, well, it's working out, it's doing something actively, it's doing something in the real world. Well, okay, but what does that actually mean when it comes to creating a life for yourself? It does not mean working out. There's actually a great metaphor I thought of when it comes to fitness. So there are ways you can work out that are isolated movements and they're compound movements. An isolated movement would be biceps training, right? This is just isolated movement and you're using your biceps to do that. And for example, an isolated movement when it comes to extroverted sensing is working out or dancing or doing anything where you're actively using your physique. Yes, you're using that, but it's not the thing that's gonna make your life better. Don't get me wrong, I work out 3 or 4 times a week because it gives me more energy, and through that energy, I can create more things in my life. But this is not the thing that really is the necessary step to create that better life. This will help you to have the energy, but real SE, when it comes to creating your life vision and making it reality, looks different. And this is where compound movement comes into place. So you're using SE in combination with NI. So that means that once you have those ideas, this vision of yours, you ask yourself, how much of this is really in my own power? And then you subtract everything that isn't. So being in a relationship with that person that is not doing the steps they need to do in order to be with you, that's not part of your SE. You're not actively doing anything to make that happen. Same thing, like I remember for years thinking, oh, I would like a relationship, but the only thing I did was be at home and then maybe go to some parties or some clubs where you don't talk to anybody. This is not how you get a relationship. If you actively want a relationship, what do? You tell your friends you want a relationship, you ask people to introduce you to other people, you actively go on dating sites, you actively do something to make that happen. And the same thing goes for your wealth management, the same thing goes for your vocation. So having something where you can express your gifts, and the same thing goes for everything else you do in your life. And this is the tricky part because we have learned for the longest time that our SE is not very strong. So if you're an INFJ, if you're an INTJ, or somebody with a strong intuition, your sensing part, in our case, the extroverted sensing part, is really the weakest function we have from an MBTI standpoint. So what happens most of the time? We either get in the grip of it. So for example, you do a door slam. You really bring out all your anger at once when all the other time you've just kept it in. Or we bypass all the other functions and do something like working out or dancing or doing anything in this regard and think, okay, now I'm accessing SE. For the longest time, I, for example, thought, okay, I just need to express myself more in a fashion manner. It really didn't help me too much. I did it for a while and I understand why I did it because it was important for me to really get in the groove of using my SE, but I wasn't using it actively to improve my life. And one of the main reasons why it's so hard for us is because in the beginning, specifically when your SE is the weakest function, you won't see the results that quickly. So you feel like, okay, so I'm gonna take on this responsibility, this adventure, and this burden of doing those things by myself. I'm not gonna just stay in my intuition, in my fantasy. I'm gonna actively improve my life. If I do that, that means that nobody's going to do it for me, which is something we have applied all our life. And this is actually a good thing. Like there's nothing wrong with understanding what other people want, helping them create a vision, and therefore creating a benefit for them and for us, and using their SE while we're giving them more NI and more vision of where they could go. A lot of our relationships are based on this. But as I mentioned in the last videos, this is not sustainable. This will always come at the cost of your own well-being and at your own vision. Because if you give up your vision in order to help somebody create something that they want, you're always giving up a part of what you really want. Because there's no way you have the exact same vision as somebody else. It's just not possible. So that does not mean you're not going to do compromise, you're not going to help people. Of course you are. But the core, it has to stay with you. There is a part of you that has to give up dreamland and I'm gonna live in my head and have these amazing visions of everything. There's a part of you that has to learn to access SE in combination of NI. And that means that you take it on knowing very well that there are other people who can do it faster than you. So I used to work with an ESTP coworker, and she was so fast. She was so productive, and I have ESTPs in my surrounding as well, and I see it all the time. You will never be able to actively do as much as that person. But that does not mean that that makes them more likely to succeed. Not at all. Because what INFJs lack in SE, they have in NI. That means that when I'm in a situation, I have the biggest chance of understanding how to optimize this situation. I know what to do better than most people because I'm not that actively included in the environment. So I know what kind of possibilities happen. Of course, I work on it. Please don't think, oh, I'm an INFJ. I know everything about intuition and you're done. It's a skill. You need to practice it. You need to tap into your forgiveness work. You need to do meditation. You need to work on yourself. And I do it on a daily basis. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to create what I've created so far. And my vision goes so far beyond this. But when you understand that you have to be the one who steps into SE, you can actively create goals, things you can do yourself. So, of course, when I started this channel, for example, I didn't know the whole capacity of it. I knew that I just wanted to help people. I wanted to have this as my vocation, and I knew that I had to suck it up and really be active and create something that will get my reality closer to my vision, instead of just staying in my head and having a discrepancy that gets bigger and bigger between what you want your world to look like and how it really looks like. So, but this is scary, right? Because the moment you actually step out of your NI, you realize that your world is not as good as you want it to be. Because why are we always in dreamland? Why are we always in our intuition? It's not just that we're good at it. It's also because we want to escape from reality, because your reality probably doesn't look the way you want it to look like. Maybe your reality is, I don't have any friends that I really like. Maybe your reality is, my job is not what I want it to be. I don't see any meaning in my life. I don't have the relationship I want. So if I would actually look at reality and take it head on, it's gonna be hurtful, because then I actively have to accept this reality and make it happen. But you can. That's the whole thing. See, when you're somebody who has a strong NI, the good thing is that you're gonna stick to a vision. Your vision is not gonna go away. So everything that's negative about obsessing over people that never going to happen as a relationship, the same aspect, the same quality you can use to your advantage, because once you have that vision, you're not gonna let it go just like that. You're gonna take the steps. Those steps may be small. Those steps may be slow, but it does not matter because you keep on sticking to that vision. This is one of the strengths of people with strong intuition. They can hold on to a vision despite having a reality that doesn't represent that. But you know very well that you're actively doing steps to get closer to that. That is the thing that's gonna make a difference. And you're gonna start feeling great the moment you step into it. Because in the beginning, if you are somebody who's always been used to just living in their head, and I used to be like this all the time, you're not aware that there's another world outside of that. I wasn't aware of it. I can now see it because now I look back at it and I know what a difference it is between what I am doing now and how I am right now and how I live my life now in comparison to then. But back then I didn't see it. I didn't understand that I was just making up those stories in my mind of how great something would be, and I was trying to understand people. See, in a lot of ways, you can understand people very well. Yes. Let's say there is somebody that you're interested in and you're so good at understanding them that you know their flaws, you know what they want, you know what they need. And because of that, you're trying to make anything happen and use all this information to get closer to that person. But the truth is, if you actually really step into SE, that you know, well, why would I want to be with that person? Is that person really going to make my life better? No. I just have a fantasy of how great my life could be with them. But in reality, they're not being the person I want them to be, because the person I want in my life is actively doing steps to be in my life. They're actually there and supporting me and creating my own vision. They're not there waiting for me to save them or waiting for me to jump into their world and be a sidekick to their story. No. So in order to make all of this happen, I have to be the one creating a story. And once you know that, you're not going to care about understanding that person. You're going to make a cut here, because your energy from that moment on, you're going to spend on creating a life on your terms. You're going to create it on working on your physical energy management, on your relationship relationship management, as in what kind of friendships I want to have. I'm gonna actively call up people and meet them once a week. I'm gonna actively really see my family that I want to have a great relationship with. You're gonna actively be the one who sits down on Saturdays and writes application to get that job you want, or you start your side hustle. Whatever it is, you're the one who makes it happen. Same thing goes for your vocation and also your priority management. So these are the 5 pillars that I've been working on, and I use them with my clients in the bootcamp and the masterclass. You can download the free poster if you haven't so far. The link is in the description. But use this as a first basis of creating the goals you want and then actively taking steps. You're not incompetent. You're not lazy. You're not slow. You're just afraid of looking at reality and thinking about what is the next right step. Because in the big vision, this doesn't really make sense all that much. But does it make your reality better than it was yesterday? This is the question we need to ask ourselves. Because once you understand that we're actively doing something to improve our reality, and this does not mean that, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to talk to that person again because then I have a chance of creating something again. This is not the thing that's going to help you. You have to actively do something today that is in your control. And it does not matter if that person is interested in you. It does not matter if that company wants you. It does not matter, because once you put your energy into your vision and creating that, you're just gonna be, oh, that company doesn't want me to work for them. Okay, well, this is one application. I've actually written 20. At some point, I'm gonna find something because I'm taking control of my life. That person doesn't wanna hang out with me. I'm not gonna spend 1 second thinking about what they're doing, what they're thinking about. I'm actually off to the next one, because every second I'm spending my time wondering and thinking about a person who does not give me what I need, what I want right now. And we're not talking about your mind. We're not talking about the potential. We're talking about what they're doing in real life. You're robbing yourself from the chance of having everything you want by you creating it. Focus on the next right step. Focus on creating a better reality than it is today, because once you do that, you'll have new information. And this is when we get back to aspect number 2, which is every time you take a new step, you have new information coming in, you create a new vision, you redefine it, you understand what things you can let go of, what things you're gonna hold on to. You become more and more self-confident in creating the things you want for yourself, and therefore open up so many new possibilities of a new vision of how you want things to be, and you're able to make them happen. A very simple example about this was that I always thought I needed to have cool people around me. I needed to have a cool boyfriend. I needed to have cool friends. And because of that, I got stuck with people who weren't really the right people for me. People who weren't really giving me what I needed in life, because I was so focused on that aspect. The moment I understood that I'm actually pretty cool, I don't need other people to make me feel like I'm cool, because that's the reason why I wanted to hang out with them. If you're really being honest, if you're thinking about, oh, I need people who are cool and I'm not going to accept anything besides that, then it's because you don't feel you're cool enough. And by hanging out with cool people, which is one way or another anyways, just something you make up, because there's no real definition of cool. As long as you think that, it means you don't think that you're cool. So what do you have to do? Who do you have to become? How do you have to look at yourself so you feel cool? Because once you do that, once you have that aspect of yourself, and it does not matter if it's cool, it can be that you think, oh, you're lazy or you're not smart or anything that you really tell yourself, whatever it is, tap into that. Make that happen so you feel like you're cool or you're not lazy, because you're taking the steps and you're just taking the action steps, whatever it is that will make you feel like you are cool. And then you just decide that you're cool. You decide that you're smart. You decide that you're not lazy. And you can make that happen step by step by following all the little steps that will get you closer to your vision, and then through every step having new information that will help you to create an even better vision for yourself. Please make sure not to confuse what is vision and what is an illusion. If you're not actively doing something to make it happen and it's out of your control, as in, okay, I'm standing here and I'm waiting for somebody to see me, or I'm waiting for somebody to recognize what a good person I am, this is outside of your control. You're not using NI in combination with SE. You create the life on your terms, you make the little steps happen, and you first have to set goals. So guys, don't let this hinder you in creating this amazing life for yourself. This is the best time ever. With the internet, with all the information we have, with all the possibilities that we have nowadays, we can create our life on our terms so much easier than we could have ever done, let's say 10, 20 years ago. It might take time, that's true, because we're not the people who make things happen right away. But therefore, your vision will stay strong. Your vision will stay on point. You're gonna follow that because you know how important it is to you. Once you become positively addicted to that vision, you just take little steps to make that happen. And like an exponential curve, it'll get easier and easier with time. You'll grow exponentially. Don't be in your own way just because it isn't happening fast enough. It's still happening. The time will pass. And before you know it, you'll be where you always wanted to be. And the path to that is amazing as well. Because I always say the thing that really hurts our soul is not that we're not there where we want to be, it's that we're not fighting for ourselves. So the moment you start fighting for yourself and you even see smallest improvements, and they might seem small on the one hand, but they're always going to be better and they're always going to make you feel better, then you thinking, oh, okay, I should be doing something, I could be doing something, but I'm not. I really hope that helped you. Remember, if you want to take the next step to sign up for the masterclass or work with me privately, the information you find below. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, watch the video on how to use SE to accelerate your life. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.